Well, Virginia Congressman Randy Forbes is on the House Armed Services Committee, and he was at that hearing. Thank you for joining us. So politicians yesterday on both sides criticized Defense Secretary Hagel, Democrat Adam Smith of Washington, saying there is no reason that 30-day notice couldn't have been given to the leadership in Congress. Hagel said, "We could have done a better job keeping you informed," and he also said, "We didn't handle some of this right." Is that adequate?
Well, Patty Ann, no, because basically the White House lied. They said they wouldn't do this without consulting with Congress. Secondly, they broke the law because the law required them to give the notice. But Patty Ann, the big part of this is how bad this trade is. On the backdrop of everything you've been covering today on your program, what is the administration doing? They're releasing 5 top terrorist leaders that all of our intelligence assessments that we can talk about in an unclassified situation say are likely to rejoin the fight. And what was really appalling is the Secretary of Defense acknowledged that he would have to put Americans at risk to go and get them if they do rejoin the fight, and he hasn't even made a calculus as to how many American lives he'd have to put at risk. We just find that unacceptable.
Well, and there's also the added risk of the price on the military's heads due to the fact that they know now that they can get a swap like this, possibly. But, yeah, at the hearing yesterday, the focus was on the handling of the trade. But the outrage, as you say, seems to be more about the trade itself, the fact that these prisoners were set free. Is there any way to fix this? Can the UN now demand that Qatar turn them over to the United Nations, since some of them are wanted for war crimes? Or our allies, we agreed to let them go, but could another country go after them as part of their anti-terror efforts?
Well, they could, but that's very unlikely. I think the more probable scenario is we're going to see these 5 individuals rejoin the fight. And the thing to remember, too, Patty Ann, is this is the equivalent of releasing the Deputy Secretary of the Interior, the Deputy Secretary of Intelligence, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, a governor, and a commander. These were all big leaders that they're putting back in the fight. I think we're going to see them go join that fight again, and we're going to have to go back and try to get them. It was a terrible deal to make. And also, as you mentioned, with increasing the hostages, it's not going to be just military hostages. They can look at any American, any on the globe now, and the price tag of those hostages has gone up significantly.
So you heard Congressman Hunter saying at the beginning that this was a State Department call, but the administration is letting the Defense Department and Secretary Hagel take the blame. Do you agree with that? And if so, why?
Well, first of all, I think there's always room for courage at the Department of Pentagon for people to stand up and say no when they think things are wrong. So I think Secretary Hagel could have done that. But I do believe this White House is trying to control the Pentagon with staff people against some of our generals and some of the secretaries over there. And I think that's getting us in some difficult situations across the globe. You covered some of them today, but whether you look at the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, or the Iranians, or you look at Iraq or Afghanistan, their foreign policy is just in a shambles, and I think it's because they're not letting the people that know what they need to be doing actually make those decisions.
All right, Congressman Randy Forbes of Virginia, thank you for joining us.